Martin Luther is one of the most famous figures in church history. But how much of what you've heard about him is actually true? Did he really nail the 95 Theses to a door? Was he the first to call for reform? And what about his role in translating the Bible? Let's cut through 10 myths and get to the real story behind the man who changed the course of Christianity forever. Myth 1, Martin Luther was the sole initiator of the Protestant Reformation. Reality, there is no doubt that Luther's 95 Theses were pivotal. However, the Reformation was really a culmination of earlier reform efforts. Figures like John Wycliffe, John Huss, and others, they laid the groundwork by criticizing the church's practices and theology and questioned the extent of the church's authority. Now, Luther's work gained traction because of the printing press and the socio-political climate of the time. Myth 2, Luther dramatically nailed the 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg on October 31st, 1517. Reality, while this image is iconic and it makes its way today through plenty of memes, there's little direct evidence that Luther himself nailed the Theses to the door. It's more likely that he probably sent them to church officials and someone else may have posted them. See, church doors often served as public bulletin boards. Think like those boards at Starbucks, but with less singer-songwriters redoing Alanis Morissette songs. Isn't that ironic? Number 3, Luther's goal was to start a new church. Initially, Luther just wanted to reform the Catholic Church, not split from it. His earlier writings focused on correcting what he saw as errors, particularly the sale of indulgences. The break with Rome came later after his ideas were deemed heretical, and there was no alternative. Myth 4, Luther's actions promoted religious freedom for all. Now, Luther did advocate for individuals to interpret the Bible, but he was not tolerant of all religious views. For example, he harshly opposed Jews who did not convert to Christianity, and particularly as he grew older, he became quite anti-Semitic. He also denounced other Protestant groups like the Anabaptists. Myth 5, Luther single-handedly translated the entire Bible into German. Here's the reality. While Luther did translate the New Testament in just 11 weeks, and much of the Old Testament, he had help from other scholars such as Philip Melanchthon for parts of the translation. Hey, if you're still watching and you find this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more content from Theology Made. Myth 6, Luther completely rejected good works as a part of Christian life. Reality, Luther emphasized salvation by faith alone, but he did not categorically reject good works. He argued that good works naturally flow from genuine faith, but are not a requirement for salvation. Myth 7, the Catholic Church excommunicated Luther immediately after he posted the 95 Theses. Reality, Luther was excommunicated in 1521, several years after posting the Theses. The 95 Theses sparked debate, but it was his later writings and defiance at the Diet of Worms that led to his excommunication. Myth 8, because of his opposition to church tradition, Luther rejected music and art. Reality, Luther loved music and considered it a gift from God. He wrote hymns, including A Mighty Fortress Is Our God and Oceans, joking about the last one, and he encouraged congregational singing. He also appreciated art as a tool for teaching the faith. Myth 9, Luther was an early proponent of modern secularism. No, the reality is Luther believed in the concept of two kingdoms, one spiritual and one temporal, but did not argue for the separation of church and state as we understand it today. He often supported secular rulers' authority in religious matters. And then myth 10, Luther's ideas were immediately accepted and the Reformation was an instant success. Reality is Luther faced significant opposition from the Catholic Church, secular rulers, and even other reformers. The Reformation took decades to spread and led to wars, divisions, and considerable resistance. And so in the end, Martin Luther's story, it's just one piece of the puzzle in the vast and complex history of the church. And the more we dig, the more we realize how much of what we think we know is really shaped by myths and legends. So here's the real question. What other stories might history be hiding, and how do they shape the church today?